my truck's actually fixed. No. Settle in. It's story time. Okay, so I haven't given you guys an update on Wilbur in quite some time, obviously, because guess what? Nothing's changed. But I am going to tell you guys a little story here. We're going to go over some details, and I'm going to share this with you because I don't know what it is about my luck. If there's anybody that's just going to get drugged through the mud and treated like a fool, I guess it's me. I don't understand why. I try to pick out reputable people to do work on my equipment, and then I don't know. So, I don't know if I ever even told you guys the final thing that's happened, but let's see, it's early April now, 2019. Back in November, I think it was November, I got a call back from the shop that was working on the transmission, and they said, we got it. We finally fixed it. They ended up pulling the transmission again, found a leaking seal on the back, which was probably the problem all along. Almost certainly it's the problem ever since I've owned the truck. Dumping pressure around a rear main seal into the transfer case. So there's no leak on the ground, but you're losing pressure on your clutches. Whatever. So they said, we found it, we fixed it. Transmission's right now. And they said, man, we put it in gear and it darn near jumped through the roof. I said, okay, great, sounds good. They said, yeah, well, we got a problem. Can't get the truck to run. What do you mean you can't get it to run? I brought it to you running. I've owned it for 2 years, and it has always run. It has never, ever not started. Now it sits at your shop for 2 months and magically won't run. Make it run. That was my instructions to them. Fix it, right? As far as I'm concerned, you guys broke it. Fix it. So I don't hear anything for like a month. And they call me, what do you want us to do? What do you mean, what do I want you to do? I want you to make the truck run. What have you been doing for the last month? I guess sitting on their thumb. So they tell me, well, we think your injector pump is bad. Okay, maybe. I don't know how it goes bad sitting on you guys' yard, but whatever. Maybe the injector pump did magically go bad. I said, what's it doing? Now, what he told me on the phone was he said, well, it's pressuring up, it's pushing diesel. He said, but it's not sucking diesel. We've got a hose stuck in a bucket. It's not pulling diesel from the tank. Okay, well, is there a mechanical lift pump? Well, no, we don't think so. It's just the pump draws it on its own. I said, okay, can you plumb in an electric lift pump and just give it a little help? Maybe that's all it needs. Because the way he told it to me was it is injecting, it's pressing, just not drawing. Which I kind of figured it's kind of the same process. But anyway, so I asked them to put an electric booster pump on it, just see what'll happen. They did that, no luck. Then it comes back around that, well, no, it's not injecting either. Oh, your fuel filter was filthy, this was dirty, we changed this, the whole system's screwed. Maybe, quite possibly, quite plausibly, but it was running when I brought it to you. So, anyway, I lost it. I called their service manager above that shop and laid out the whole thing to him. This whole issue has been going on way too long. I've been given way too much poor guidance, bad information, wrong information. And I said, I don't want your guys at that store to touch it anymore. I'm calling in my own mechanic. He's going to work on it at your shop. Okay, fine, whatever. So I call in my guy. He goes in. He's worked on the truck for me before. Never done me wrong. He goes in. Diagnoses it. He says, yeah, your injector pump's bad. He says, your diesel, it's rotten. Hey, guess what? When a truck sits and doesn't run for a year and you don't put fresh diesel in it, what do you expect to happen? The diesel rots. And what's that do? Oh, it damages your fuel pump and your injectors. Duh. So he says, yeah, man, your injector pump's, it's bad, Tom. Okay. So we pull it off. We send it to a reputable shop. They tear it down. They do a full rebuild. Rebuild on it was like $3,800. Of course, a brand new pump's $12,000, and it's probably a rebuild anyway, of some sort, a factory rebuild or whatever. Anyway, get the new pump, put it back on the truck. Mechanic times everything, calls me, says, hey, I can't get it to run. He said it's acting just like before. It doesn't have any boost pressure. He said, I've got it drawing diesel now, but he said it's not injecting diesel. Put in new injector nozzles, right? Cleaned everything. Should be good to go. He said, I just can't get it to run. He said, something's still not right. It's not pushing diesel. Oh, so I got to interrupt this little bit here. The first time my mechanic was trying to get the fuel pump to work, and he could not get the truck to run. He was having it draw diesel from a bucket so he could observe. And he told me, it's sucking diesel, Tom, and it's sucking a lot. He said, this thing is drawing it down fast. I don't know where it's going, okay? So there's another detail. It's taking a lot of diesel. It's going somewhere. It's taking more than it should take. And he didn't know where it was going. I said, okay, take it back to the shop. They should warranty it. They should fix it, figure it out. So he pulls it back off. Mind you, labor bills, right? Everything he does is not free. He pulls it back off, back to the injector shop or pump shop. They tear it all down. They call me and go, nope, nothing's wrong. Everything's right. But they said, your pump has something black in it. They said it was full of something black. Looks like motor oil. Doesn't smell like diesel. It's probably motor oil. And so I said, well, how does motor oil get in the pump? Well, we don't know. We've never seen that before. Well, it has to happen somehow. You guys enlighten me how this could happen. We don't know. So they do nothing, according to them. Everything was fine. We took it all apart. We cleaned it all out, put it back together. No charge. There was no problem. Send it back out, put it back on the truck. Mechanic puts it back on, gets the truck to start and run. Okay, great. That's wonderful news. Well, he gets it to start. I go out there a couple days later. I can't get it to start. Can't get it to pull a prime and start. A few more days after that, he meets up out there with me. We get the truck to start. Mind you, this is after the second pump rebuild. And don't forget about the oil in the pump, the suspected motor oil in the pump. So we get it to start and run. We're sitting there. Oh, and we also did a compression check. Compression checked out great. 150 to 200, whatever. No issues with compression. We get the truck to start, run. Sounds terrific. Everyone agrees, man, that truck sounds amazing. Revving it up, it's smooth, it's clean, it sounds good. I said, okay. Well, while we're revving it up, all of a sudden, it starts blowing oil out the dipstick. And it's leaking oil out of the valve cover. And the oil that it's leaking out is extremely runny. Very, very runny. And I'm watching it drip on the ground, and I said, that looks like diesel. That looks like it has diesel in it. That's not just plain old thick motor oil. Sure enough, it's got diesel in it. Well, how'd that happen? Well, don't know. Can't answer that one. But we also don't know how oil got in the pump. Right? So I'm like, I said, trying to be the optimist, I said, maybe the first time they rebuilt the pump, something was wrong. They didn't want to admit it because they just found a seal that was missing or something. Whatever. I said, so maybe it cross-contaminated, it got diesel in the oil in the diesel back then. Maybe all we need is an oil change. So I changed the oil. I drained over 13 gallons of a oil diesel mix out of what's supposed to be a 7 1/4 gallon system. Okay. All fresh oil in it. I'm all excited. I get the truck started, running, get all the air out of the system. Again, sounds terrific. The service manager at the shop agrees. He's standing there talking to me and goes, man, it sounds good, Tom. It sounds great. So we take it for a test drive. Put a load of dirt on. Transmission feels good, so that's a positive, right? Feels like the transmission is finally fixed. Drive it around 10, 15 minutes maybe. I go to shut it off. Now my mechanical shut-off's not hooked up, so I got to open the hood, go in there, kill the fuel pump, and I look in, and it's spraying oil out of the dipstick again. It's loaded the oil up with diesel again, okay? So it's not a one-time deal. This is a recurring issue. Now, I forgot to tell this. Before I started the truck, I was still trying to make sense of how this could have ever happened. After I changed the oil, right, and found all that diesel, I called the pump shop, and I said, you guys tell me how it got diesel in the oil. I said, it is not, it shouldn't be an issue with the injectors. It's not just dripping diesel on the cylinders when the engine's not running and leaking down past the rings. No, it's not doing any of that because the truck's starting, running excellent. I said, how does diesel get from the system, injector system, into the motor oil? They said, well, there's only one way that can happen. If there's diesel leak, they said, your pump is a diesel lubricated pump. There is no oil that goes to your pump. Now, back when they told me that your pump was full of oil, I called the mechanic that installed it, and I said, how could that have happened? And he said, oh, well, he said, there's an oil line that runs to your pump to lubricate your pump. So maybe they missed a seal inside the pump, right? So he's telling me my pump is oil lubricated. Every other mechanic I've talked to about this 3306 pump says it's oil lubricated. The pump shop is the only one telling me no, it's diesel lubricated. So I'm on the phone with the pump shop. I've got them on FaceTime so they can see what I can see. And they said the only way the diesel gets into your crankcase, if it happens, is through the front main seal on the pump where it goes into the crankcase where your timing gear is at. And they said if that happens, there's a weep hole and there's a little, at your tattletale, there's a weep hole that will be running diesel out on the ground. That's when you know that your front main seal has failed. So I'm feeling around on the pump trying to find this, and they're explaining to me, oh yeah, it's on the bottom side of the pump, whatever. Well, I find it, but as I'm looking for it, I spot the oil line on the pump. And I asked them, what is this line? Well, we don't know. Where's it go? I said, well, I'm feeling it with my hand and it comes off the side of the pump and it goes down into the crankcase. It's an oil line. Or if it's a return line for diesel, it's run to the wrong spot, right? So they said, we don't know what that is. Never seen it before. That's odd. Of course, I call the mechanic and he says, I hooked your pump back up the exact same way that I took it off. Your pump is oil lubricated. That line needs to be there. Okay. So now we go back to after the test drive. Pump's full, or oil's full of diesel again, right? So I'm back to the pump shop. How in the heck did this happen? We don't know. Can't tell you, but your pump is diesel lubricated. That line should not be there. I said, okay, so if I just take that line off, I'll just put a plug down there on the side of the crankcase on that on that oil line, and I'll put a plug in the side of the pump. Problem solved, right? That's what you guys are saying. So they agreed at this point. They said that line, that's absolutely why you're getting diesel in your oil, because that line shouldn't be there. That's what they're telling me. But everybody else is telling me that oil line needs to be there. You disconnect that, you lock up your diesel pump or your injector pump. So I basically told the injector shop, I said, y'all want to put it in writing to tell me that I can pull that line off there because you're confident that it doesn't need to be there? I said, you put it in writing. Heck, I'd even prefer if you guys would send out your own technician to do that work, to make sure that he plugs it off properly. I said, because if that thing locks up that injector pump, we got way more problems. I'm so sick of being kicked around. It's just ridiculous. There's no reason for it. Now there's another side story that I have to tell. The service technician at the shop, the same one, mind you, that told me to go buy a whole nother transmission to fix the original problem that he missed on my rebuild the first time. He told me to get a whole nother transmission, and I did, and it didn't fix the problem, right? That same guy is standing there listening to my truck run saying, man, your truck sounds terrific. It sounds great, Tom. And then tries to tell me that it must be that I have such bad condition on my cylinders and my pistons. He's saying, oh, I think your piston rings are gone, or your cylinders are so worn out that you're leaking raw diesel past the pistons while the truck is running, and it's dumping diesel into your cylinders. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make a lick of sense. You're telling me the truck sounds great. The compression checked out good. The smoke is clean. It's not burning oil, and it's not blowing, raw diesel out the exhaust pipe. Like, if there was a problem with unburnt diesel, it's going out the exhaust pipe, right? It's not just going to run down into the oil pan. It doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't understand how he sits there and tells me it sounds great, everything checks out great and sounds wonderful, but I'm pretty sure you got a problem with your engine. Trying to upsell me on an engine rebuild. I mean, he mentioned that to me the first time, and I called a boneyard and said, come look at this truck and tell me what you give me for it. Because I'm so just heartbroken, so sick of fighting this issue. And I'm so sick of that guy. I hate to get personal with it, but there's a reason I'm not naming names of company names or individual names, because I'm just infuriated at this point that he just gives me this horrible advice that doesn't even make sense. And I'm not saying that I'm a professional mechanic. I'm not at all. But I understand mechanical injection pretty well, I think. Like, I appreciate it. That's why I like old diesel, because it's simple. You can follow the lines and you can see it. And things, they work or they don't. There's no question about a little sensor or a little bypass valve that's acting funny. Right? It's just simple. But then he wants to sit there and give me this just crap advice and try to tell me that he thinks I need an engine rebuild. So anyway, we're back on the phone with the pump shop now. I told them, like I said, put it in writing, explain to me how this has happened, because prior to you guys rebuilding my pump, I didn't have this problem, right? It has to be pump related. We cleaned out all the bowls, we put new nozzles, we put all new pump, new fuel filter, we drained out all the old rotten diesel, replaced it with all fresh diesel. I only see one problem here, and that is the injector pump. And the only thing I can think is that they're telling themselves for some reason that it's a diesel lubricated pump, and potentially they've rebuilt the guts as such, as a diesel lubricated pump, but it's not. It's an oil lubricated pump, and they're missing some little plug on the inside, or they're missing some, an O-ring, for Christ's sakes. I don't know. But if I have to pull the pump back off there again to take back to them again, I don't even know how to approach it other than just to tell them, hey, you guys find a mechanic and you pay that mechanic and you get my truck fixed. That's what I want to demand. Whether or not they'll do it, I don't know. But that's what it's come down to, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I guess I had to vent. I've been telling this story to everybody. I might as well tell it to all you guys out there on YouTube too. I don't understand why these guys will give just terrible advice. Just horrendous advice. Like, these guys are professional mechanics. These are Caterpillar certified mechanics, industry experts, been doing it all my whole career, Tom. I know what's going on. I know this stuff. And not a jab at Caterpillar. I love Caterpillar equipment. I just don't understand these people. This shop, I don't know. I don't even know where they find these people to just say this stuff, just blurt it out. Well, we think it's this. I'm like, Jesus, like, if you guys are going to do that, why don't you tell me to check my blinker fluid, right? Like, jeez, crow, I don't get it. Anyway, enough venting. Sorry to have to psych you guys out with the little start video there of me revving the truck up, making the goofy face, because I was very excited that day. But the good news is the truck will start, it will run, and it runs good. It's just dumping diesel in the oil, which of course is, just a minor problem. And it feels like the transmission is fixed. I'm still not totally convinced until I can get it out to my property, put a proper load of dirt on it, and haul it and have no problems. That's when I will say the transmission is fixed. But knowing now what they found, what they did, absolutely makes perfect sense. Just to recap that, I don't know if I ever covered it in detail back in the day. When I bought that truck, the transmission already had a problem slipping. And back then I didn't understand even how that transmission worked. I didn't know anything about a power shift transmission, whatever. And the guys I bought it from said, oh, you should run 90 weight in it. Which I was like, okay, whatever, 90 weight gear oil, And then when I go back to have the transmission rebuilt, my buddy's like, what? No, dude, you're on like a 30 weight. You would never run a 90 weight through that transmission. Oh, unless you have an internal leak somewhere and you're trying to slow that leak down by running thicker oil, right? So I'm absolutely sure of it, convinced that rear main seal has always been the problem. Always, ever since I've owned the truck. It just finally got bad enough that when I was driving that night and the transmission finally said, nope, I'm done, that was when it finally quit for good. It washed out the rest of the seal, or whatever happened, right? Because you remember, the truck would still drive around empty, just not under load, which means it's not holding enough pressure on the clutch packs to keep them engaged when you're under load, but it will run empty. That's how it was. When the shop went to rebuild the transmission the first time, when I said, tear it down and rebuild it, to me that says you tear it all the way down, everything, and you check everything. They clearly didn't, because they missed that rear main seal. What they did instead was they just ripped out the planetary, threw in a rebuilt new planetary, and said, you're good to go. And I asked them back then, did you pressure test it? Did you bench test it? Is there any way that you guys tested this thing to know that it was right before you put it back in the truck? And they said no. They said they bench tested it. They claimed they bench tested it somehow, but they couldn't show me any proof that they bench tested it. They couldn't tell me how it performed on the bench test. I don't believe they ever tested it in the first place, because if they would have found that seal leaking. They would have seen it leaking. I think they went and got a new planetary, shoved it in there, good to go. We're going to make some money on this one. And guess who pays the price? This guy. This guy that hasn't had his truck for over a year now and's been kicked around and been all over looking for parts and pieces because the shop won't help. The shop that I took it to say, can you guys please help me? And they said, absolutely, we can help you. We can do anything for you. They won't help. They won't even return a phone call half the time. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I guess in hindsight, I should have took it to a Caterpillar, not to a Caterpillar certified independent shop. I should have just took it straight to a Caterpillar shop. Maybe they'd have found it first, because at the end of the day, this is not rocket science. This is a common transmission. It's available all over the place. I could have bought a $5,000 used transmission over a year ago and just thrown it in the truck and probably fixed it. Instead, we've been through all this crap, which I've learned a lot, and I learned to appreciate that. I like to learn. I just hate learning at high expense and a lot of lost time. So, anyway, enough for now. Just had to give you guys a little recap. Had to get a little bit off my chest, but I think we're getting close. We're so close. And this diesel and the oil issue is so heartbreaking and equally aggravating, because I'm like, it runs now. The truck runs, it drives, it dumps. Everything's great, but we have to get this issue fixed. And if we have to pull the pump off again to fix it, it is what it is. But man, it's a kick in the nuts. Oh, I was so happy that it started and ran, and then it's just yet another slap in the face. So anyway, there's your update. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know what the moral of the story is here, other than if you take your old equipment to a shop somewhere and they give you a story that just doesn't make sense, by God, challenge everything. Ask 6 different mechanics what's going on. Don't just take the one guy's side of the story. I tried to be optimistic. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, now I doubt them so much more. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here.